There is a fire sale going on in Nashville as the Tennessee Titans move on from DeAndre Hopkins and Ernest Jones Jr., trading them to the Kansas City Chiefs and Seattle Seahawks to jumpstart this rebuild by acquiring future draft assets. We'll be talking about that and so much more on this edition of the Morning Glory Show. If you guys are checking us out for the first time or a repeat customer, salutations. Do us a couple favors. Head over to the Glory Day Sports YouTube channel and subscribe so you can join us every Thursday morning live and hop in the comments section, but also enter in the chance to win the signed free Tajay Spears jersey for the giveaway. If you're one of our audio-only Spotify or Apple listeners, make sure you leave us a 5-star review. And lastly, if you're on Twitter/X, why haven't you hit subscribe or why haven't you hit retweet yet? But I am joined by the all ball knowers, as always, Jonathan Miller at Esports Valen and B-Will at B-Will TFTV and at TFTV Sports. I've missed you guys. Haven't talked to you guys here in a couple of weeks since we missed last week's show. How you doing today, Jonathan?
Well, you know, as good as a guy who roots for this team can do, I suppose. Yeah.
Yeah, we gotta get to the point on our Sundays where it's not so much about wins and losses, about how we can plan for the future. And I think Rand's doing a good job of that. How are you doing today, B-Will?
No, I'm excellent, man. I just got off a little vacation, mini vacation, and you know, just enjoying the process, enjoying the suck, man. That's what we got to do.
Yeah, I mean, we're definitely enjoying the suck. Embrace it for the rest of this season. The Will Levis and Mason Rudolph experience. It's you're only going to get 11 more games of this, and then we're going to be missing football yet again as we plan for this draft. And it's going to be a long off season yet again with Rand Carthon. This draft class has been great, so we can only aspire that this upcoming one will be just as good, if not better, because they're getting these additional picks. It's going to be sad to see DeAndre Hopkins in a Kansas City Chiefs jersey for sure. Ernest Jones Jr. played very well for us this season, but I don't have that emotional connection I feel like I do with like a DeAndre. But it's going to be super interesting to see how this the rest of this year plays out regardless, because this is that time we can start evaluating some of this younger talent and planning for the future. And I guess we've kind of been doing that already with like Will Levis, but now we can hop into the Jaquan Jackson, the Cedric Gray, who is returning from IR, even the James Williams of the world. It's going to get real interesting real quick. And like I said, it's not talking about wins and losses. And we can start planning for the Shedeur Sanders show. Or me and B-Will, I know, are definitely on that train, especially when we can plug the Exit One show as well. And we can kind of open up with this. Is Tennessee ready for Shedeur Sanders, B-Will?
Yeah, I don't think so. I mean, I don't think people are sort of using I can't say mantra, but I hate to say aura. That's what the young kids are saying. But the aura and the effect of Shedeur Sanders that he's had in Colorado, and people sort of weaponizing it against him, using it, saying that it's all about himself and all that, which just ain't true. He's really matured as a person, throughout these 2 years at Colorado. He's definitely doing some of that. He's got a little flavor to him, and I don't think that's something that Nashville and Tennessee is used to having, especially at the quarterback position. So it takes that to be a great quarterback nowadays too. So you're not just gonna get that Miller, that just vanilla, just playing quarterback anymore. And you're not going to get that for any position. You're not going to get that at the receiver position. You're not going to get that anywhere. It's just a new time now, and it's something that we got to get used to as fans and as people in the state of Tennessee. It's really as much as I can say about that part of it. I don't think they're ready, but they're gonna have to get ready because the bag's gonna be Louis.
I honestly, look, I think that Shedeur Sanders is the best quarterback in this draft class. As a matter of fact, I think he's the only quarterback in this draft class that's worth drafting. So to me, at least in the top 5, or at least in the first round, maybe. I don't know. Maybe Cam Ward could show me more towards the end of this season to where I could get on board with him. Jalen Milroe, I'm out on as a first-round talent. Carson Beck, I am all the way out on as a first-round talent. So when it comes to bona fide franchise quarterbacks, Shedeur is the guy. And so the biggest issue that I have at this point for the Titans, and like considering what the next quarterback might be, is that you are essentially tanking for one guy. And when you're doing that, it's a really dangerous game, because guess what? There's a handful of other teams, at least 2 or 3 others, that are trying to do the exact same thing. So I love these trades. I hate them because I loved these 2 players, but I loved the trades in the terms of getting ready for this next step, because you're a 1-5 ball club. You're about to be 1-6, about to play one of the arguably the best team in the NFL, if not top 2. So you're going to take a L there, and then you're playing a Patriots team, which is not a pushover, which is also considered a bottom 5 team in the NFL, but they're not going to be just like a pushover easy win. They have a new quarterback at the helm. Drake's looking pretty good, honestly. So it's not just going to be an easy win. So, I mean, yeah, at this point, we talked about the Will Levis experience and what this evaluation process is going to be. Rand Carthon in the front office and Callie all just told us exactly what they think of this evaluation. You don't trade DeAndre Hopkins regardless. Like, the trade makes sense because he's an aging receiver on an expiring contract. So getting any assets makes sense. It's exactly what they didn't do with Derrick Henry last season. So the trade makes sense, but you still don't do it if you're thick in the evaluation process of your young quarterback, because DeAndre Hopkins it's not like he sucked. This is still a very, very good football player at, by the way, a position that we've needed help at for a long time. So you don't just send that player away for a conditional 4th if you think that your quarterback still needs that evaluation process. What I think is happening is that they had a conversation internally and saying, like, okay, look, we're not giving up on Will Levis 100%. We've committed to him for this year. That's just what it's going to be. So here's the thing. There's not an eject seat plan, guys. Like, this is just what it is. Either he figures it out at some point in the season and we feel really good about him turning a corner. We give him the entire year to do it. And then we have our quarterback. Then we go into next season with a 1st-round pick, likely going to be a very high 1st-round pick, where we get to take a receiver or a right tackle or an edge rusher, right? Cool. Let's keep building the team. Or he's not the guy for sure. We sputter and blow up, and then we do one of 2 things. We either tank hard enough to get a bona fide franchise quarterback, which they probably believe 1 or 2 guys is. I probably stand alone in that thought. I'm just really critical of my quarterback evaluation. So either you sputter and be the worst team, or you find a bridge quarterback for a year that gets you to a better quarterback draft class, in my opinion. So, it's a weird situation, but selling assets at this point, acquiring more picks, does make sense, as much as I hated to see those 2 guys go, especially EJ, who I thought was a defensive piece you build around. But, you make a quick flip, get a good player in return, get a better pick. Can't be mad at it.
I think it's pretty straightforward what they're trying to do, or what they see and what they saw in Levis. And I think this isn't something new. They knew in the offseason this guy Levis was a joke. We should have known. I should have known.
Clearly not. They built around him, expecting him. Like,
I'm talking
there's no
training
eject
camp
button. You know what I'm saying?
They seen this guy in training camp. He still ain't got it figured out by the end of training camp. We're still trying to work out the kinks at the end of training camp. Defense is winning every day in training camp. This guy sucks. But I'm just being honest.
He somehow regressed from his rookie season, where he was not good by any means, and he's even worse at this point in time.
Bro, if you guys go back and watch that Steelers game, go back and watch the Dolphins game, go back and watch the Falcons game. Feels like an outlier, which is why I didn't mention it. But go back and watch those games where, we didn't win the Pittsburgh game, but my God, this guy looked like a bona fide franchise quarterback. Like, he was slinging it with anticipation, throwing accurately, sitting in the pocket, moving in the pocket well, making good decisions. That guy has not existed this year through these 6 games at all. And it's been NFL absolutely head scratching.
Every NFL quarterback is capable. Minshew lit us up for straight years. And look at Minshew. It's about the attitude, it's about the aptitude. And he sucks at both. And he's part of the reason why we're having this. He's the reason we're having this fire sale. I'm done with the guy.
That's 100% true.
Attitude sucks. That's him. And with Shedeur Sanders, you got aptitude and you got attitude.
Yeah, that's true. I'm no longer planning for a future where Will Levis is the starting quarterback. I still think he should start once he's healthy for the remainder of this season. But after that, I'm done with him, unless there is just drastic improvements, what I highly doubt that's going to happen, especially with DeAndre Hopkins no longer in the building anymore. But let's go ahead and talk about this trade a little bit, because obviously the Titans, they acquire a fifth, that it turns into a fourth. But the conditions on this are what's intriguing about it, because obviously Kansas City Chiefs, the powerhouse that they are, they're currently the only undefeated team in the NFL. It turns into a fourth if they make the Super Bowl, for one. And then also DeAndre Hopkins plays the 60% of the snaps, which that's the easy part. I think he's by far the best receiver on their team now with the Rashee Rice injury. I mean, they're throwing to guys like Justin Watson at this point in time out there. So DeAndre comes in, and it sounds like he's going to play this Sunday for them already without knowing any of the playbook under Andy Reid. So making the Super Bowl, I've never seen that in any trade clause. But what does this mean more for the Titans? Obviously, he's out the building. Treylon Burks on IR, as he always is. Unfortunately, NWI, he is eternal. He is back. He's going to be starting out there, more than likely. This is a guy that didn't have a reception until the Indy game 2 weeks ago, where he caught a touchdown. And then last week in Buffalo, caught another touchdown. He just does enough. The dude has 6 receptions on the year, by the way. I mean, this is not a guy that is going to come out there and set records for you or be a competent starter for you. He sits in that 5th wide receiver spot very well. He has 19 yards on the year. That tells you all that you need to know going into this point. But I'm super excited to see guys like Jaquan Jackson get some snaps out there. The rookie out of Tulane, your punt returner, your kick returner, we've seen that. And he's improved as a returner. I'll give him that. He's by no means good at it. But Jaquan, ever since we've talked about this in the offseason, the Titans don't have a guy that can take a slant and take it to the house. You don't have a guy that's going to be a huge yak guy. You don't have a guy that could even be a real field stretcher outside of Treylon, who's no longer out there. So Jaquan should see some additional snaps at the receiver position, and then that's where you can throw in eye candy out there pre-snap with orbit motions, these end arounds. That's going to be something that this team has been missing at this point outside of Calvin Ridley. So what are you guys thinking about this wide receiver core, or are you elevating a guy like Mason Kinsey or Bryce Oliver, or are you looking outside at another team's practice squad and trying to elevate there? We can start with you, B. Will.
I ain't gonna lie, my brain went into shut-off mode when I heard you say Treylon Burks and Stretch in the same sentence. I don't think that guy's stretched day in his life. But, with the receiver situation, I mean, we got Treylon Burks on IR. He's out for 4 games. Nick Westbrook-Akina is coming in. I mean, what's the point of even acquiring guys? Just bring the guys up. Bring the minor leaguers up. Bring Mason Kinsey up. Bring Bryce Oliver up. Hell, call Andre Johnson back. I don't give a damn. Just bring. Who cares? We're trying to lose games here, buddy. That's what we need to do. And the point is, why even waste money and waste a guy's time bringing him in here? It's not. Let's see what we got in Bryce Oliver, who I was really fond of in the preseason. Let's get shit. Let Kinsey get another. Let him get his. He should be about time for him. Somebody needs to check on Mason Kinsey. He should be about time for him to get his tenure in, so he can get that insurance the rest of his life. Make sure he gets that for playing 6 years in the NFL, because he's been good for us. I mean, that's where we're at right now. So don't make any more additions just to fill holes that if we have to, if guys get injured. But I wouldn't add anybody. I wouldn't add any more pieces to this team. I'm subtracting pieces from this team, and people don't want to hear that. But that's business. This is a business, and we have to find a way to get it. We cannot be in a quarterback purgatory, or we cannot count on tanking next year. You can't count on doing that next year. I know we like the quarterback class next year, but look, what if we win 5-6 games next year and we're drafting 12th, 11th, and don't have the capital to move up? Who wants to put that's too much of a risk. Take your cake that you have now and make sure Will Levis has to play. Make sure you get a top 2 pick. And then if you get the top 2 pick, you can make anything shake. You can trade up. But really, you need to make sure you got the top 1. And our schedule sucks. So it's all there for us to do this. But it would be the Titans' way to screw this up somehow. It's pretty straightforward what we have to do here.
Yeah, and and look, missing that. Sorry, go ahead, Jake.
No, I was going to say we could even take it one step further. If you're planning 2 years out, how confident are we in Brian Callahan at this point in time? I think stylistically, I think he's a great coach. I think he's going to be even better. But if we win 2 games this season, 3 games this season, and then you turn around and win 3 or 4 next season, he's going to be out the door more than likely. You can't bring him back at that point in time. So then you're restarting that rebuild again with the new quarterback. And that it looks bad on Rand Carthon. It looks bad on Amy Adams-Strunk. It looks bad on this entire franchise entirely. So
why can't you bring the guy back after a 2 and 3 win season? Do you see progress?
Not after 2 of them. Not after 2 of them.
Y'all don't see there's not progress in the process or anything. You're not seeing guys getting developed.
He could win. He could win
straight on win totals.
He could win 2 or absolutely. It is.
That's not the way you. That's not the way you run. That's not the way you really want to build a football team.
At the end of the day, like you said, it's a business.
Y'all are better than that.
No. Think about it, B. Will. If you win 2 or 3 games this season and you bring him back, that makes sense. You just tossed him into a brand new team. You have to reset the culture. Your franchise just drafted 3 or 4 first-round picks back to back that were awful.
Yep.
That literally just shoot yourself in the foot as a franchise. So this season going terribly, if it shouldn't have, but if it does, then that's understandable. You bring him back. But if you have you have an entire, because this was the resetting year. So you reset, then you go into next season rebuilding off of that reset. And if you then have another 2 or 3 win season going into the new stadium after that, you can't, he would get, it doesn't matter how good you are. You have 2 seasons like that, you back to back, you can't.
You absolutely can. If he doesn't have a quarterback in next year, you absolutely can. And you absolutely should if you see any type of progress and you trust that that's the guy.
You have to have a quarterback after going into next year. There has to be.
I agree. But there's some people that say, tank for Archman, you got to get to 25. No, it's not happening.
Yeah,
but I'm saying if you're of that mindset, you cannot be trigger happy, ready to fire the guy if you want to wait till 2025. It doesn't. It's got to go both ways. But those people that are saying that, I don't think that they're. I know. I'm just saying those guys that are saying that, there's no logic in it. You can't wait 2 years.
For his job right now is ridiculous.
Yeah, of course. That's asinine at this point in time, especially what he's putting out there and what he has.
The receivers are getting open. Bro, the scheme is working. It's working. It's 100% working. He doesn't.
It comes down to ownership
of the offense.
Amy Adams-Strunk, you cannot trust with the A-bomb out there because she's gonna drop it on this team if it's not putting asses in seats. And we're planning for this new stadium. She's not going to be happy with. And the whole reason we hired Rand Carthon, and the reason she hired him was because he promised a competitive rebuild. So it wasn't, hey, we're not going to tank. We're going to be okay. And he tried it, and it didn't work. And kudos to him more than anything. Going into last season, we should be in a very similar spot to where we are now that where we were last season. But Mike Vrabel and Amy Adams, no, let's not trade Derrick Henry. Let's keep him on this roster. Even though we have trades on the table, we're still going to do what we got to do because we're still pushing for a playoff spot, even though we are out of the playoffs by all means. So kudos to him to pulling the trigger on these trades and actually getting draft capital so we can reset this team and get back to where we need to be instead of being in freaking purgatory like we've been since they've moved to Nashville outside of a few years. This is the right call right now, but at some point in time, you have to see an uptick.
Here's the thing, though. This roster is not as bad as people say it is.
No, it's very close.
Not. We've been leading in 5 of the 6 halves. What, 4 out of the 6 or 5 out of 6 halves this season? This roster is not that bad. We're a quarterback away. We're an edge guy away from really, competing for the playoffs. And that's all you can ask for at this point in time in the project. You have to have some patience with this. Get the quarterback in. Try to retain key pieces right now. Let's put a freeze on the fire sale a little bit. You can trade away your guys that are, your fringe guys. I would even trade away a guy like Landry, but none of the key core guys. And let's try and get Shedeur Sanders. And that's where the project is. Draft edge in the second round. That's where it is.
Okay, let me ask you guys a question. To me, and I think most people agree, people are pretty high on Cam Ward. maybe Jalen Milroe. I don't know. I don't know where many people sit. They feel like there's plenty of good quarterbacks in this draft. I don't. So if it's tank for Shador, then the Titans are in a precarious situation, right? You're 1-5, staring down the barrel of 1-6. Your starting quarterback, the guy who you're trying to find out if he's your future guy or not, is not able to go. You're not going to send him. He probably could go against the Lions, but why would you? Why would you send him out there against a very good team to just fail? Doesn't make any sense. Public appearance and for his confidence. So it makes sense to just hold him. No, it doesn't make sense. You just hold him. Whatever. This team's the year's torched. So you take the loss against the Lions, you're 1-6, and then you go into week 9 against the Patriots at home. You say, here you go, Will. You put him back out there. Before that game against the Patriots on that Tuesday, so after this weekend against Detroit, on right before Tuesday or Wednesday or something like that, is the trade deadline, right? Before week 9, essentially. I think it's Wednesday. I can't forget. But anyways, before you play the Patriots, the trade deadline hits. After you lose to the Lions and we're 1-6, is there any consideration for trading for a quarterback that potentially you can use as like a competition with Will Levis essentially for the rest of the year to basically add another layer of a buffer to try to find that guy? There's one player that I'm intrigued about. I don't know if they go that route necessarily. Maybe two guys that are intriguing. But to me, if you don't do that, right, and you say, okay, it's just go all the way for the rest of the year with Will Levis. If he's the guy, great. Our parachute hits, and then we build around him. If he's not the guy, fine. Hopefully, here's the thing. Hopefully, you tanked hard enough, that Shador is an option. If he's not an option and your team is picking like 7 or 8, then you have to trade up, which we know Rand Carthon has tried and failed. He tried to trade up for CJ Stroud and got outbid by a team that was right behind the team picking first. And there were great quarterbacks in that draft class in terms of desirable top 5 guys, right? So with this class where Shador, it's very top heavy for Shador, in my opinion, you have to tank hard enough to win that. If you don't win that auction, then you're in real trouble going into 2026 because the quarterback position, to your point, B. Will, we can't go through this entire year awful and then also go into 2026 with no real quarterback, or you take a shot on someone who's just really not going to be the guy, and then you're awful again. That is not an option for this front office. It's not an option for ownership. It's not an option for Callie. It's not an option for any of us.
I think it is.
So, bro, you're telling me you're okay with 2 back-to-back 2, 3, 4 win seasons? No, you can't.
We're not winning the Super Bowl in the next 3 years. Do I have to raise the sirens or something? No, we're not winning shit in the next 3 years. So what's the point? We've got to find the quarterback.
The point, yes, 100% agreed. But that there has to be some sort of succession plan. To your point, you can't wait until 2027 to find your guy. So you can't just have 2 back-to-back dead years, is what I'm saying.
Nobody's saying that.
I'm
saying it's either this year, this draft, next draft, find the quarterback. It's one of the two. I prefer to get it done this year, but I can see a world where you hold on to Brian Callahan, you hold on to Rand Carthon, and the plan, if you can't get him this year, there's a clear plan to get the guy next year.
Then that means then what I'm telling you, what that means, what you just said, what that means is that you're sticking with Will Levis through 2026. That's what I don't
care at this point, dude.
I don't know.
You can't roll in Will Levis out there next season.
I don't draft. Roll Rudolph out there.
A free agent.
Roll Minshew out there. I don't care. It don't matter.
I think I pulled up the free agents. If there's a guy that you're rolling out there next season, I could see that kind of maybe could work out with Callahan. It's Sam Darnold, who was in the MVP discussion as of a week ago, which I think is a terrible idea, but that might still get you to the first overall pick. And then you're looking at guys like Zach Wilson, Trey Lance. There's not a lot out here, guys. Justin Fields, maybe.
Did we learn?
If we did lose last week, I'd be okay with trading for Fields, but that's not the case no more. They're done with him.
Did we learn with the Tannehill debacle how grabbing a middle-of-the-road veteran is? Did we learn from that?
Yeah, put you
back into purgatory. That's
exactly.
All it is.
So Darnold, no. Get these guys out of here. No. People have got to learn.
Man, my only problem, my only thing is, don't give me everything that we've discussed. I'm on board for. What I am 100% on board for the Will Levis experience for the rest of the year. Find your quarterback. Clearly things aren't working here, but what's totally possible that can absolutely screw us is that Will Levis starts to put it together towards the end of the season, but it's not like he's just snaps his fingers and he's just the guy again. But he just does enough to win some games, and he wins 5 or 6 or 7 games. And then we get to the end of the season and we're picking 8th, 9th, 10th. And then we're not in a better position. You don't feel great about Will Levis moving forward at that point, even though he's strung together some wins. And you don't love that draft position for finding the guy. Because what are you going to do? Draft a Carson Beck and be like, hey, hopefully he's the guy. Like, what are we doing here? We're recycling like garbage at that position. You have to find the guy. Because what's happening right now, trading away a guy like EJ, trading away potential future, like potential big defensive assets like Quandre Diggs, who's played really well for us, or Harold Landry, or even Jeff Simmons, who's been in the conversation, right? Trading away any defensive pieces like that, what that does is that tells me that they're willing to, and they should be, by the way, I agree with this ideology, that they're willing to sacrifice defensive pieces to add assets to make the offense stronger, because this is an offensive league. We're proving it this year. Number 1 defense for what? Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. It's not doing anything for us. Losing the turnover margin. The defense is playing great through 3 quarters or through the first half, and then they're falling apart because the offense can't stay on the field. This is an offensive league. They have to figure out the quarterback position. They have to figure out the right tackle situation and fix the offensive line. They just do. That's the most important. It's the number 1 goal at this point. So all I'm saying is there needs to be layers beyond just tanking, because you have to figure out this quarterback situation a little faster. So what I'll say to you guys is that what I think is interesting, I don't necessarily think it's going to happen. I don't necessarily think the team trading this player would make this move, but I think it's intriguing to think Hendon Hooker as an option. Hendon has looked pretty good in his limited NFL action. He's at least worth taking a shot on. You give him the rest of the season to try to see if that works. He's still on a rookie deal, so it's super affordable. You trade it to the Lions, maybe in a package with Harold Landry and maybe plus a late round pick in Hendon, something like that might make sense. But you bring him in, he can plug in, and then you just go from there, right? So who knows? Maybe I'm misreading the situation here, but what I think is that the Titans have to layer this quarterback situation going into next season. Because don't get me wrong, if they tanked hard enough and we landed Shedeur, I would be just as happy as everybody else. But that is a very, very thin margin to get there, and that's what I'm worried about. It's like trying to hit a hole in one, and it's like you feel pretty good about hitting the green, and that's cool. But that doesn't win any games. That doesn't score any points. You have to make it in the hole to land this player, in my opinion. A Cam Ward, a Carson Beck, a Jalen Milroe, those guys don't move the needle the way you need it to be the bona fide franchise, like throw the ball efficiently offense. If you put Cam Ward behind this offensive line, he would look like Will Levis. Do you guys you guys get that, right? Like I'm talking to you guys out there.
I'm not so sure about that with Cam Ward, but
come on, bro. Cam Ward had the play that's getting circulated right now. He had like 10 seconds. He had like 10 Mississippis to throw the ball. That is not reality in the NFL. It just is not. So anyways, we can get into that talk later, but that's kind of my thought process on where the Titans are. And I'm just a little worried about where the evaluation goes from there.
I don't think there's as low of a chance of that as you say there is. I think there's a pretty high chance we lose a lot more games this year and don't win much.
If they trade some more defensive pieces, I think I feel good about it too.
Current state, but I'm confident the way this team is.
Do we think Ray Carthon's done? Do you think they're going to trade a Harold Landry, Amani Hooker, Jeffrey Simmons, anything?
I think there's another trade coming.
I would be fine. Yeah, I'd be fine with trading Amani Hooker, of course. I wish we would have done it in offseason. I'd be fine with Harold Landry getting traded. I would not be fine with Jeffrey Simmons, and I don't know where the Jeffrey Simmons trade talk is coming from. This has to be just a Twitter thing.
This has to be fans brought that up weeks ago.
Yeah, this has to be people that don't watch football. I mean,
I'll throw out one name. What about Chigakonkwo? He's not seeing snaps. He had his best game last week, obviously, and he's going to see more with that now with Hop out. But
sure
this
Trade
team,
him to San Francisco.
I mean, they wouldn't be surprised.
They don't have anybody. They could use him.
He would be great in San Francisco.
I said in the offseason he should have went to San Francisco.
You get like a 6th-round pick for him, though.
Yeah, that's all you're going to get out of him.
Shit. That's all he's worth.
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy with that. I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
We don't use him anyways. This team is really kind of pointed towards Nick Vannett as tight end 1 right now because of his versatility. And then Josh Wiley has been quiet, but I still think he's played decently
I like
this
Wiley.
season. And I think he's the future of this tight end room. So I'd be perfectly fine moving on from him. I mean, you can look at a guy like Quandre Diggs as well. If the hooker market isn't there, you're not going to get a lot for him either, though.
You have to pick up some of that salary of hookers.
Yeah,
and if you traded Quandre, who would even plug in next to Amani? It would be rough back there.
That's not the point at this point.
That's not the point, right?
You hear Amani Hooker complaining again, talking about he needs help. Guy, you getting $10 million a year. You're the help. That's. I'm not even going to get started on Hooker.
Man, I can't wait for Shedeur Sanders to come out and be like, "I'm not playing in Nashville." That'd be hilarious. Hey, Jake? Can we call a quick audible and do something really quick?
Yeah.
Do you think you could pull up? I'm just curious because I want to do a little think tank on the rest of the season of our schedule because I think we'll agree. And I'm just looking. I'm doing a quick. I'm perusing the rest of our schedule, and I am maybe agreeing harder with B. Will than I was at the beginning of this show. So
There's 2 at most.
Could you bring up the schedule, and then can we just look at the rest of the games and maybe come up with a consensus of how many wins we legitimately think is left on the schedule for us?
So this is the background of my computer, so it's not going to come out.
Yeah, this guy's not talking about trading Simmons at all. You don't got to worry about him. He's got a background his damn computer.
Yeah. So we're in this back half, though. This Patriots game, this is the tough one for me because I don't
look, guys. We can't trade Jeffrey Simmons. You're going to mess up my work wallpaper. We can't have that.
Yeah, I do. It ain't happening.
Put the phone down, Rand.
This schedule has turned quite a bit because we thought we were kind of getting to this easy part of the schedule, and the last little bit, fine. The AFC South divisional matchups, that's okay. But Washington was a game that should have been a cakewalk for us early into the offseason we were talking about.
We're really
not so much anymore. And then after
we ain't winning 3.
Yeah. I don't think so.
I think
I give us one of the Jacksonville games.
Right.
And I think they squeak out one more somewhere else amongst this. I don't know where it'll be. It might be the Chargers.
I think they beat
the Colts. I could see.
This is what I'm giving them. I think we beat the. Oh man, I think at best we beat the Patriots, the Jags, and the Colts once. So I think there's 3 wins left on this schedule.
Best case, I agree.
Still Mr. Optimistic.
And I think that's super. Yeah, I do.
That's best case.
Super optimistic. Yeah, so
that's best case. I would say more realistically, I see us winning 1 more out of this bunch, and that's why I'm so hell bent on Sanders is in the bag.
Look. I hope you're right.
3-2-1 because I got them winning 2. I think they race the Chargers to 10 points, and whoever gets there first wins the game.
No shot they beat the Chargers.
They're not beating the Chargers. Buddy.
No, I don't think so.
That's the only other one. If they lose there,
they did look pretty bad against the Cardinals, though. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah,
but but otherwise they've been good.
My 2 will be one of the 3 from New England, Indianapolis, and Jacksonville. I think at best we can get two of those. But I really don't even think we'll get
maybe
that.
Callahan's got to beat Cincinnati. Maybe they get up for that game because
I
that's
can see that. Oh my!
That would be like the most Titans thing ever.
Only the Titans can ruin a situation like this. Them and Lovie Smith.
And then shout out to Stoney in the comments. Sobers Network might take Houston if they're resting their starters in the last week of the season.
Yeah, that's a good point. Oh, they're gonna screw us.
They'll beat us without their starters.
Yeah.
So who do we lose to? Who do we lose to at the end of last year? Who was it? Who was that quarterback for Houston?
Davis Mills, wasn't it?
Long neck.
No, I felt like it might have been Davis, but I felt like it was somebody else even.
Who knows?
I don't know, bro. So yeah,
Put a backup quarterback out there, Titans lose to him. It's been that way for years.
It's so there's not as many wins on this schedule at the back half of the schedule as I thought, because Washington, who we thought was going to be a win, is a significantly better team. The Vikings, who we thought was going to be a win, Sam Darnold turned this team around, so they're looking great. There's not any easy wins. I mean, the Patriots, they plugged in Drake May and looked pretty darn good. So they're not even like Case Keenum. Yeah, I think.
Oh my gosh,
we lost to Case Keenum, bro.
Yeah.
Oh my god. So yeah,
he's flying planes with Tannehill.
So I don't know if actually now reassessing the schedule again. I think where I land is that I am fine with trading another major piece to make us worse to get to Shedeur. That's kind of where I'm at. So
we're not far, man.
And look,
we're close.
Look, I still think, call me crazy, but there is very much still a world where Will Levis finds his mojo and starts to click and does, around week 12 or 13, when the pressure of the season is gone and the season is lost, and all of a sudden he's looking fantastic. Like, that's still a reality. Is it going to happen? At this point, it doesn't feel like
Jonathan.
It.
That is a fantasy.
It's
not
still
a reality.
Possible, is all I'm saying.
That is a fantasy.
All I'm saying is that it's still. Do I think it's going to happen? Not necessarily. I'm pretty out. I'm like, but there's a small sliver of me that thinks that it's still possible. But that's the bad part, though. That's the bad part.
Why, Jonathan? Let's talk about this.
Well, I'm going to tell you. I'm going to tell you why it's the bad part. Because there's always a chance. We're the Titans. To mess things up, to muddy the water, there's always a chance. But the reason why I think that's a bad thing is because if he plays like the way he's been playing for even a couple more weeks, and then all of a sudden plays well in a handful of games, you still don't feel good about the body of work he put together. So even if he strings together 3 or 4 good games going into 2026, you're like, I don't know. And that's the worst thing that could happen, is for you to be on the fence about if this guy can be the guy. It's just not, it doesn't help. So I am with you. I really desperately hope that this team wins one more game and that's it. And then we go right into this. When we're scoring touchdowns, we're doing this dumb shit. I really hope. I can't wait to do this stupid shit. My wife's going to make fun of me in the living room when I'm doing this after multiple touchdowns. I can't wait, bro. I would love for that to be the case. I'm just critically looking at the situation thinking like, okay, this is where we're at. But to wrap it all up in a bow, trade away Harold Landry. Don't care. Trade any player on the team. I don't care. If there was like the Tennessee Titans have traded, I'll feel nothing. 0. I'll be happy. I'll feel good. Cool. Getting closer to our quarterback. That's all that matters.
There's a handful of guys I wouldn't trade. The core key guys I would trade. But, Simmons,
sure,
Snead,
like you don't trade like
Ridley,
your rookies that
Latham,
are playing well.
Skoronski,
Sure. Yeah.
Cushenberry. I mean, I'm not trading those guys away. Those are the guys you can build around.
If they traded Jeff for a 1, I wouldn't feel anything.
No, I'd have to get 2 or 3 for him.
No, this is the culture year. You're trying to build this so whenever you bring in this quarterback, he has some guys around him that can be additional leaders as you carry him along. And Savage in the comments, Dion wouldn't want Shedeur playing for the Titans. He's already come out and said that he was perfectly fine with it. He's already done it.
Stop saying that shit.
Did he say that?
That's what I saw. Yeah, so he came out and said it was very intriguing that he would play in Nashville. So I think that's out of the cards.
I think Nashville as a city is nice enough.
I think it's been blown out of proportion how much Dion is playing into this draft. I think there's a couple key parts. I mean, Shedeur came out and he trashed his offensive line after that game. We saw the wrist rock. Bro, we saw a couple other things.
He's got some maturing to do. He does.
But they were the worst O-line in the nation.
They were bad. Yeah, but you don't shit on your teammates after
What'd they do after that?
As a quarterback, you just don't.
What'd they do after that?
You can shit on him in the locker room at practice.
Weren't they right there when he did it? Didn't he bring him out there and do it right in front of him?
No, he was at a presser. They weren't standing out there.
I don't know if he was out there.
Were they not standing behind him when he did that?
No.
No, I don't think so.
No, he had a press conference where they were standing right behind him. I don't know if that's the same one. And Jake, what did you
Not
say
the one where
about
he shit on him? No,
what did you say about Prime saying that he'd be fine with Nashville? I didn't
I didn't see
audio
that
cut out.
either.
There was
I
some
haven't
radio
seen
hit.
that.
I didn't actually listen to it, but there was multiple reports that came out that basically said he was perfectly fine with him playing in Nashville.
We have to
Really?
find this because I'm
Yeah,
tired
I'm
of seeing
curious
people
also.
on Twitter. Just people are just fine with being uneducated about stuff and just spewing nonsense. Well, and that's my biggest gripe. But we've got to find this clip.
I'm gonna try to find
Jonathan's
I'm
on it
just
right
gonna
now.
link it.
But
I'm
Please,
curious
Jonathan.
because if he said that, Deion Sanders has not publicly expressed any strong opinions against Shedeur playing in Nashville. However, he has mentioned a preference for his son to not play in cold weather cities, which could potentially be a concern regarding Nashville depending on the time of year. That doesn't make any sense.
that sounds like an old.
That
report.
sounds like someone who does not know Nashville.
No.
So
And I
yeah,
think it's super intriguing.
Still
that
freaking
Titans
80
fans
degrees
are
here.
all in on it.
yeah.
Yeah,
What
yeah.
is
The
80
fuck?
degrees yesterday.
No, I got sunburned out there 2 weeks ago. So I think it's super intriguing that Titans fans are all in on Shedeur, though, because when you
It's a
look at the
surprise.
draft media, he's not even close to QB1. They have Cam Ward, they have Jalen Milroe. I've seen Carson Beck still up there. Quinn Ewers up till this last week has still been up there. So it's by no means is he the consensus QB1. Is he going to be the 101 in the draft? It could change drastically between now and then. But Titans fans love them some Shedeur already. I can tell you that because it is not that way around.
I'm
the
going to
league.
tell you what did it for me was that Arizona game when he had 3 of his top receivers out and still threw for almost 400. That's what did it for me when I saw his offensive line is not good. He's got a true freshman left tackle, and he was out 3 of his top receivers and still almost threw for 400 against Arizona.
Yeah, Oregon.
Watch the
game last
Arizona
year.
game. The Oregon
This
game last
time-
year.
This time last year, Shedeur was my QB1. I put out the ranking. It is out there on Twitter. I retweeted it. I had him above Caleb Williams. I had him above Jaden Daniels. I had him above Drake May. It changed as the year progressed, and he ultimately decided to return to school. But this is a guy I've been in love with for a while, and he has everything that you want for a Brian Callahan offense.
Thank
He
you.
is the best pocket passer in this draft class as well as last draft class. He is super accurate. He sees the entire field, something Will Levis, he still hasn't seen a second read in his entire career. And it's just,
I do want to say,
he's that dude.
I do want to say this too. What is intriguing, and I know B. Will shared this and got really excited about it a couple weeks ago.
Monty Hooker highlight tape.
No, when I could find one. He's playing, so the hate makes no sense from you. I don't get it. Shedeur mentioning DeAndre Hopkins as his dream wide receiver to throw to was really interesting, and I think that it was worth looking into because, like, he knows that he's preparing for the draft, right? So certain answers and things like that, like he's been PR trained. It's like, okay, buddy, like, look, it doesn't make any sense for you to be like, my dream wide receiver to throw to is some receiver like Justin Jefferson, which their quarterback situation is basically taken care of, or Jamar Chase. Like Joe Burrow plays there. You're not going to play with Jamar Chase, not in the at least near semi-recent future, right? So it was interesting that he chose a receiver for a team that is potentially in the quarterback market at that point when he made the comment. So probably not worth reading into, but certainly interesting that DeAndre Hopkins was the player that was listed, who obviously was on the team at that time. So I'm intrigued. Color me intrigued, but I am still cautiously worried about the future, the next several weeks. But I do feel better about being terrible after looking at that schedule, because we do not have it. Minus the Jaguar games, there's no easy games.
I used to
ish games on the schedule.
I used to put stock into what prospects said about where they want to go until Brock Bowers last year said, "Yeah, I want to go Nashville. I like Broadway." I said, "This guy here, you know, I try. I don't even, you know, it's not even a thing to me anymore, man. These guys are just talking. They want to get paid."
Yeah,
everybody brings up the Eli Manning posturing that Shedeur's going to do that. We've seen that one time in history. The entirety of the NFL, that it happened one time with Eli Manning. It's probably not going to happen again. This is a business. I say that it's never going to happen. Eventually, it'll probably happen 100 years from now, and we'll be wrong. But
Might happen.
That's not going to happen this year. It could happen with Arch. I mean, if we had to pick a guy, just because of the namesake, but
the history.
Yeah. But Shedeur,
by the way, guys, Arch is not coming out next year. Everyone who's like, get to next year's draft class because Arch Manning. Nope. Arch Manning is going to play 2 or 3 years with Sark. He's 2027, 2028. I hate to break it to everybody. So
I'm not ruling that out yet. I would
let these guys have their way.
He doesn't need the money, bro. He wants to play. He wants to play for Sark. He's already said it.
I could see him coming out before I could see Nico coming out. I think Nico is going to come back another season after next year.
Needs to.
He should. Yeah, he needs to.
He should. But I mean, that's the talk of the town right now. Tank for Nico. So we talked about tanking for 2 years. Do we tank for 3 years?
Let's really big brain this. What if? Okay, hear me out. What if we just play Will Levis for the rest of his contract, and then go? You know what? We've had enough of this. Let's find a quarterback. Nah, bro. It's got to be this. Just tank for Shedeur. Trade another asset. Trade Big Jeff. Get a first-round pick. I'm in. First-round pick.
I don't think anybody's giving up a first for him. I think that's
which is why he won't get traded. Which is why I can.
Yeah.
Which is why I can safely say this. I love Big Jeff. I still think he's a very, very good player. Still think he's, in my opinion, top 5 in his position, even with the lesser play that he's given us. He's still a very good player. Makes the players around him better. But, bro, when I tell you, after DeAndre Hopkins got traded, because he had a soft star receivers on my football team have a very soft spot in my heart. Like, I won't even tell you that Julio Jones was bad, even though he clearly was not much of an impact. To me, like, I have Julio Jones jersey, AJ Brown jersey, DeAndre Hopkins jersey in my closet, and I'll proudly wear them because getting talented receivers for us is hard. So at this point, look, nobody after that trade, in my eyes, nobody is safe, minus the obvious ones. Obviously, you don't trade away your young talent. But, yeah, your older guys, absolutely on the trade block. If it gets you closer to quarterback, don't care. Now, but to B. Will's point, but to your point, and I know you're probably going to say this team is probably in fine position right now to be bad enough to get there anyway.
Yeah, that's not what I was going to say. I was going to ask if you've bought a Calvin Ridley jersey yet.
No, I'm going to hold off on that one.
We'll wait till we get a quarterback. See if we can catch the ball.
Which
Calvin Ridley getting open every single game, but he's got to complete some of these catches. To
be fair,
he's got some drops.
Hey, these Jags fans, they should be on our ass right now, but they're fighting their own demons. But they should be on our ass. And I'm not saying too much because I know what they can do, but they should have been on our ass these last couple weeks. If I was a Jags fan, as shameless as I am, I would have been torching the Titans fans.
Come week 14, they're coming out of the woodwork. I tell you.
They're going to appear like the damn they appear like the cicadas every year. You don't think about them. You don't think about them at all, and then they just start coming out of the ground. That's what I think of Jags fans. The Colts fans, they talk shit year round. Houston talks shit year round. Jags fans, they just appear like cicadas.
Well, the Colts have so much ammo against us that have built up over the years that, like, they just have stupid confidence against us.
They say 04, 07.
Yeah, they just go 2 decades.
Andrew Luck was undefeated against the Titans. Did you guys know that? But yeah, I think before we move on to these projections, we got to at least touch on the EJ trade. Obviously, Ernest Jones Jr. traded to Seattle, reuniting or that connection between Denard Wilson and Mike. Escaping my name now, but
Baker, innit?
We acquired Jerome Baker
from
them, which Titans fans should be familiar with. We talked about him in the offseason as well as potentially signing him as a free agent. Very similar player. He's not as good as Ernest Jones, in my opinion. He is better in pass coverage, though. And coming into the season, we were anticipating this exotic blitz packages and Ernest Jones and Kenneth Murray. They're coming on every play. And that has not been the case. They've been sitting back a lot and they've been doing more QB spies and stuff like that. I think that fits more into the Jerome Baker role. But ultimately, this is a downgrade. But essentially, you got him for a pick swap. And then you're acquiring, a 5th round pick for this one? A fourth round pick for this.
In 2025. So the original trade was a 2026 6th round pick. Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, masterclass by Rand Carthon. You got Cedric Gray coming back off of IR. He was a full participant yesterday. Yeah, exactly.
Come on,
So
brother.
we'll see that.
Give him a
And then
chance.
my guy James Williams, he was active last week. Got some special team snaps. Maybe we can see him out there. And then we talk about the eternal that is Nick Sprikakine. We got to talk about the real eternal Jack Gibbons.
That's the trade asset.
Probably
what are the people trying to give up for
trade
NWI?
asset. Okay, yeah. Yeah.
Well, he was going to be one of my untouchables. He was. I mean, I almost had him as one of the untouchables, but the Ernest Jones trade. I mean, it's a masterclass by Carthon. I mean, that's how you. That's what they suck off Roseman to, and Howie Roseman and Brent Veach, they suck them off to that every year. It's a really good trade by Carthon to be able to get that done. I can't believe people have been asking if he should be on the hot seat. They're crazy.
Doesn't make any sense.
Rand is cooking. He's absolutely cooking. He's getting ahead of the trends. He's moving players for getting Jerome Baker is a really good player.
It's a good job to get him back. Just the picks alone would have been good.
Bro, I would have been happy with the fourth. I would have been like, okay, wow, you just flipped a 6 into a 4th essentially this year.
And got production.
Yeah. So, for me, the trade obviously for 30 seconds, the trade stung because I really liked EJ a lot. And I thought that he was a piece that you build around. However, given the current state of the team, I think the trade was a slam dunk. And so to my point earlier of trading more assets, Rand needs to be on the phone still. He needs to be putting those together and this supports my point from earlier where I said, if you're going to tank, you got to tank for one guy this year. And if you're going to do it, then try to go all the way. So trading another asset makes your football team worse, which gets you closer to the tank, gets you a better tank. And acquiring another asset gives you more picks to potentially trade up if you only make it to, let's say, the Patriots and another team that doesn't necessarily need a quarterback end up worse than you. I don't know. Who are the other teams that are doing awful right now? I guess maybe the Raiders would
Giants.
The Giants.
Raiders.
So let's say the Raiders would absolutely snap take Shedeur if they got in front of us. And I'm sure that'll be the one team that we're fighting against for that to happen. But Cleveland. Okay, so Cleveland.
They're not taking Sanders, I don't think.
Well, I don't know. I think that quarterback situation up there is pretty done. They just have to, in drafting a quarterback, at least get you, a young guy. Anyways, let's say it's one of those teams and the Titans don't play bad enough. They end up picking like 3rd or 4th. They're in the 3 or 4 position, right? At least acquiring more assets gives you more firepower to move up a spot or two in front of one of those teams to leapfrog them, right? And if you have to trade away a second or a future first or something like that, at least you have a handful of picks this year, several 4ths or 3rds or whatever, so that way you can still build your team, which Rand Carthon has proved to be able to do in the later rounds in day 3 of the draft. So I think it makes some sense to continue to trade those assets. And then at the same time, it also makes some sense to hold on to a guy like Harold Landry. If he has a really good year, then you can still trade him in the offseason. So there's still that on the table. But yeah, at this point, it's tank for Shedeur or bust at this point is kind of how it feels.
No,
John, I'm glad I've been able to sway you, buddy.
You didn't sway me. Will Levis swayed me.
No, Will Levis ain't swayed you in a year. Ain't no way Will Levis swayed you.
Well, I told you what I needed to see. I needed to see ample time for him to properly evaluate him. And at this point, I feel like he's given me ample time.
You said last week it wasn't ample time. You had to wait. You had 18 games or something. I told you you'll find out next week, buddy.
Well, the football team is 1-5, man. And it's because of him. Like you're trading assets because of him. He didn't win very winnable games. And now you're on a back stretch of the season, which is pretty tough. The schedule's really tough. Yeah. So what's he going to do? Like we just said it, like best case scenario is winning 3 more games. That's 4 wins. That is good enough to be a bottom 5 team. That your quarterback was not good enough if you're picking in the top 5.
We're in a good spot, boys.
I don't think it's talked about enough how injury prone Will Levis actually is, because we've seen it for the last 3 years. He's had more injuries than Traylon Burks or Kyle Phillips. That's just what it is.
Including college, yeah.
He's had more injuries and touchdown passes.
Senior year, he had the finger, the shoulder, the turf toe. He's dealt with the knee injury last year. He dealt with the ankle injury last year. He comes in this season. He's dealing with the shoulder injury again. It's just another thing. They're not these IR pending injuries, but the dude is constantly beat up. We talk about him in the same light as a similar build to like a Josh Allen. The dude's not built that way. He's not. We're talking about
Mentally,
another glass man.
Physically.
Anyway.
He's going to be selling insurance.
And he's going to be damn good at it. He's got the marketing background.
He's a damn gimmick. He's a
TikTok
gimmick. He's a
influencer,
salesman.
Whatever he was.
He's an influencer. He's a con artist. He's a terrible quarterback. Let's get to these predictions.
Okay. Okay. Hold on. Before we jump into those, I'm just curious. I'm just simply curious. What happens to? I want to hear this from you guys because I honestly don't know how I would react, and I don't think anybody really knows. But let's say seriously, taking a look at the schedule. There's several teams. We got the Patriots game after this one that he'll be playing in. Let's say around week, that's 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Let's say at week 14, that's against the Jaguars. Week 14 at Jags, week 15 Bengals, week 16 Colts, week 17 Jags, and then week 18 Texans. What if Will Levis turns it on and wins, let's say 4 of those 5 games, and he looks really good? Then what? In both of your opinion,
I jump off the Batman building. It's not happening,
bro. Okay, it's not happening. Just play the game.
Okay.
Because it's possible. It's sorry. In the reality. It's whether it's a slim margin or not. Okay, it's possible. So what if that happens?
Okay. If it happens, I'm still
and
not
he looks
confident.
Good. He looks good.
Yep, I'm still not confident in the whole body of work, and as Jake said, I'm still not confident he can stay healthy and be the guy. Because he hasn't shown me enough to warrant that grace. He hasn't shown me enough mentally to be the starting quarterback of this franchise. He's not the guy that I would sink $200 million in. I wouldn't sink 200 pennies into the guy. So he's not. He's just not the guy that I see.
They have to call Bon Jovi.
Doing that.
Bon Jovi's gonna be working overtime downtown Nashville. I'll tell you, on that bridge.
Jake, come on, man! I had to answer the hypothetical. Come on.
I'm still not buying
Look, see, Jonathan, he didn't want to.
But, yeah.
Because it's a hard question to answer. Because what if it happens? And what if during the stretch of 5 games he looks really good and we're like, oh shit, like
that's the worst case scenario.
And by the way, those 4 of those 5 games are divisional. 2 against the Jags, 1 against the Colts and the Texans, and then you have the game against the Bengals in there as well. So stringing those together, let's say he loses the one of the Jags games, but he beats the Jags, the Colts, the Texans, and the Bengals in that stretch of those last 5 games, and he looks really good. And then it's like shit. Then you're sitting at like what? That's still only 5 wins, which is still awful.
That brings in the draft implications. Because Shedeur is at that point out of range because you got to have to trade up at some point.
Yeah, you're picking at like 7, 8, or 9, maybe.
And that makes it real hard, especially because we know these quarterbacks are going to get elevated. There's going to be teams that trade up. Maybe the Titans are them to do that. But that almost just restarts this entire scenario. Because
that's what I'm saying,
going into
guys.
next season, and it's the same fucking discussions, and then we'll be sitting here at week 3 going, what the fuck happened? Why did we do this again?
That's my point. That's my hell. That is what's happening in my head in the evaluation process. That can very well happen. Maybe not that exact scenario I gave you guys in the last stretch of 5, but with these last, 8 to 9 games or whatever it is, he could string together 4 or 5 wins out of those games and look good and then look bad and then look really good and then look bad. And then we're sitting at the end of the season with, 5 or 6 or 7 wins and we're like, oh no, you know what I'm saying? Like that's very real. So
Jonathan,
pay attention to the trade deadline, pay attention to them continuing to sell assets. I think it's very possible for that reason.
Jonathan, please relax. That is not happening. It's not a scenario. It's not even worth thinking about.
I sure hope so.
And side note, I want you to be a relationship counselor because your optimism in shitty situations is off the freaking charts. So if me and my old lady get into it and it falls off the rails, I'm hiring you.
Hey, 50% of all marriages end in divorce, and I can guarantee you that divorce is coming sooner rather than later for this Titans team.
Jonathan is going to find a way to he'll get that 50% up to 75 as positive as he is. I'm telling you, nationwide.
I'm not saying this is going to happen.
I get it. He beats the crap out of you, but you got to stay with him because he was a good guy.
He was a good guy. Do you remember when he bought you those roses 34 years ago? One rose. And it was dead when he got it for you. Just think.
He abuses you because he cares. He wants better for you.
I'm not saying it's gonna happen. I'm saying it's a possibility. That's all. It's whether it's a thin reality, a thin chance, or a large chance. It's a thin chance, but it's possible. And if it happens, you have to be prepared. That's all I'm
not saying he loves you, but there's a possibility that he will.
When any given Sunday was utterly mentioned for the NFL, they did not have this Titans team involved in that thought process.
Man,
shout
I
out
sure
to
hope
expert
you guys are
Swami.
right.
And as a real Lions fan, I remember the days we were 1-5, 0-6, going against monster teams. We have much more respect for you guys, more than the last two teams. LMAO. Hey, we respect you guys too. We're down bad over here. And it's going to be a fun game. And we'll see if you'll respect us after we make these pick predictions here in a second, because we don't know what Jonathan's going to do over here.
Okay.
But,
Titans win.
But let's pull this up. What we got going on in the AFC South? But Jonathan did go 4-0 last week, coming down from the depths to tie me up, and we're only one game back from B Will. So we are all about tied up at this point in time. So this could be an interesting week. We got three divisional matchups this week, with the Colts and Texans facing off in Texas. And then Packers at Jaguars, and the Titans obviously at the Lions. So starting with the Packers-Jags game, Green Bay favored by 4. Trevor Lawrence, we got Jordan Love. Should be a intriguing matchup. It's very kind of surprising that Green Bay is only favored by 4, even though on the road. We know that usually Vegas gives you kind of a 3-point bump in favor of the home team. So they see this as a touchdown game if it was at a neutral site. Starting with you, Jonathan, how do you see this game playing out this week?
Let's just expedite this part, huh? Let's just be honest. We're all taking the Packers here. The Packers are a very, very good football team. Not only have they strung some impressive wins together this season, but they strung a really impressive comeback and win against the Texans last week. So yeah, I'm taking them. I would take the point. I think it's good. I would take the over, as a matter of fact.
Yeah, I agree. I'm thinking that spread is missing a 1. That's how how much I think that they're going to beat the Jaguars by. Packers is a good football team, man, and they're really turning a corner, and that's a model franchise right there of how to go through the changes in quarterback and how to hire a offensive-minded coach and to support them.
If this team could ever get a Matt LaFleur in this building, we would be set.
I know.
That was all. Nice. If we could just see what that looked like.
We did get Matt LaFleur in this building.
Well,
maybe if this team just didn't run him out of town. Maybe if we didn't go with a Mike Vrabel or something like that. I mean, this would be really.
Fans say that he had fans saying that he didn't do a good job.
Oh yeah, fans did not like him after.
They didn't like Matt LaFleur.
But I agree. Packers win. Jordan Love, this team, they're a good franchise. And Jacksonville, I mean, they struggled with New England last week. This is not a good team. They're in the same boat as we are at this point in time, and they might be worse. I don't know. It's pretty damn close.
Did the NFL just leave Jacksonville in London? They still playing.
Fields.
They give them 2 games.
They'd be fine with that. They want to get out of Jacksonville. They
do want to get out of Jacksonville. Yeah.
Yeah. But then we got Colts at Texans. Texans favored by 5. You got CJ Stroud and Anthony Richardson reportedly playing this week, coming off of the injury. So that should make it pretty interesting in some rights. It might not be a good game, but we at least have headlines to talk about. So we start with you, Jonathan. And B. Will, who do you have in this game?
Texans by about 9, I'd say. I think the Texans will beat them by double digits, to be honest. So I just don't see the Anthony Richardson experiment. It's done. He's still a better quarterback than Will Levis, but it's the experiment is done. I don't know what Indy's gonna do. Irsay is just gonna, I don't know what Irsay is gonna do. He's probably I'm not even going to say on this show.
Well, I
They
can
are
tell you
in
right
the
now.
which is the hard part for them. We can get out of the Will Levis deal. They've got Anthony Richardson for the foreseeable future, at least the next couple seasons.
Okay,
Yeah, I think Irsay is so drugged up he doesn't even realize that.
just for funsies, I'm going to read you guys the current stats, 2024 stats for Anthony Richardson and Will Levis. Okay. So Will Levis, as many of you guys know, 699 yards, so a yard short of 700, 5 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. All right, 8 turnovers. Not good. Anthony Richardson, 783, so only 84 more passing yards, 3 touchdowns, and 6 interceptions. His QBR is a little better by like 15 points or something. These stats,
That yards per completion, though.
Sounds like a better quarterback than me.
Yeah.
These stats feel awfully similar. Our guy was taken in the second round. Their guy was taken in the top 5. So, anyways, I digress. Yeah, so I'm taking the Texans here. I think that it's a divisional game, so it'll probably be more competitive than we think. The 5-point spread honestly makes sense. I don't think that the Texans are going to obliterate them by any sense necessarily, by like multiple scores or anything. But I do think the Texans win handily, and I would probably take the over because I think they probably win by at least a touchdown. That makes sense, but especially with Anthony Richardson playing. So yeah,
Give me the Colts. I'm taking them.
Sure.
The
You can have
Titans
them.
tanking, not you.
Anthony Richardson 1-0 against CJ Stroud. It is what it is.
Bro, I just read you the stats.
They're not great. They're not great. And
They're better than Levis, though.
There's no
Barely.
he might not make it through the game.
I don't make
This
the
dude
stats.
is just as
Just
injury
make the
prone as
take.
Will Levis. But I'm gonna take the Colts just to change it up a little bit. I don't think rationally I should be, but we got to make up some of these points, and I think this could be a trap game for the Texans, who by all means have not looked amazing either. They have not been they are a powerhouse in the AFC South because we are all so bad. But this is a slightly above average team, in my opinion, at this point in time. They have a lot of pieces that could cohese and they could come on hot at the end of the season, but they're not amazing by any means. They are beatable. And I think the Colts could scheme something up and the Texans have a bad game and they win a 17-14 game or something like that. Wouldn't surprise me. But that leads us into the final game, which we will be giving a score prediction for. Tennessee at Detroit. Detroit favored by 11. It's going to be a rough outing. Titans fans, I don't know what you got planned that day, but I mean, you might make some other plans. I know I'll probably be at the gym trying to just sweat it out, take my mind off of it, and then we'll recap after that. And we'll talk about this more of a disaster afterwards, I'm sure. But I'm going to take the Titans. Not take the Titans. I'm sorry. I'm going to take Detroit. I'm going to take Detroit 24-10. I think
This guy's gone off the rails.
I about had a stroke.
No. So I think Tony Pollard, he'll put a great run out there. He'll score a touchdown. The Titans, I think, might get a turnover in the red zone. Nick Folk kicks it in, and then it's off to the races for Detroit, in my opinion, who I believe are without Jameson Williams, or at least they're planning on not having him out there.
He's suspended, yeah.
Yeah, he's suspended. And then they're missing some of their key pieces. Aiden Hutchinson injured. I mean,
David Montgomery might not play. I think he's hurt.
Jamar Gibbs will be out there. I pulled up their injury report earlier. It looked like he was limited yesterday, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, maybe
maybe I'm just mistaken.
They're playing the Titans. He'll be fine.
I mean, if you're choosing a game, this is the one to choose. So it'll be very interesting. Jonathan, who do you have in this game, or what's your score prediction? I should better ask.
Yeah. So I'm obviously taking the Lions. I have them winning 27-13.
The optimist.
27-13. I think the defense is good enough to stay competitive through a couple of quarters. And then the Lions offense, they always find ways to score. So 30 plus, losing by 40 plus, all of those are still on the table. Definitely possible. But I think the Titans, you know how it goes. When there's games that like this team is going to win by a landslide, the other team is always like we were surprisingly competitive in the first half against the Bills. Did anybody else have us leading against the Bills last week?
We are 3-1-1 going into halftime. We're going to keep it close.
See what I'm saying? So I think it's going to be a close game in the first half. And then, of course, the Lions lead will build towards the back half. So that's why I have them scoring only 27.
What about you, B. Will?
Yeah, I've got Detroit 31-10. I think 10 is our sweet spot with how many we score. It gives us a good drive. It gives us a field goal. Last week, by the way, and we didn't talk about this last week, but I almost blew a gasket on that first drive when Callahan had 5 screens called.
Me too,
I was like,
bro.
there's absolutely no way, and it really pissed me off a little bit, but I had to calm myself down. I said, there's absolutely no way this guy spent all week on a script and drew up 5 screenplays on the opening script. But that's besides the point. And, I'm eager to see what he does this week on it. But, yeah, I got 31-10 Detroit.
Cool. I mean, that all about wraps it up. I mean, it's all the same across the boards. Score predictions are not great in our favor, and the only opposite picks is you guys have the Texans, I have the Colts. So we appreciate everybody joining us in the comments today. We've got Chiefs Kingdom out here. We got Detroit fans.
Could you wait? Could Ian wait any time to get this DeAndre Hopkins profile picture up?
Jesus,
I know.
Christ.
Took him no time at all.
Shame. And probably was a Titans fan.
Bro, Chiefs
fans, are you guys going to be cheering?
Right,
are you guys going to be cheering for the Chiefs to make the Super Bowl?
Absolutely. I want them to beat the shit out of Derrick Henry and the Ravens.
Agreed.
I didn't even think about that, but I'm on board for that.
Yep. And I want that pick.
My Super Bowl is Chiefs Lions, and the Lions beat them.
I got Chiefs Seattle.
I haven't given it any thought at this point in time. I might go Minnesota Chiefs. Sam Darnold gets up there. But we appreciate you guys checking us out today. If you guys checked us out for the first time, or if it's not your first time, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Enter in that chance to win the signed Tajay Spears jersey giveaway. I would hate to give it away to a Detroit fan or a Kansas City fan, but whoever wins, wins. But the Shador watch is on, guys, and we will check y'all out next week.